Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the delay because I had sent the handout, but it was not sent through the WhatsApp, so I had to go back and send it. So we are continuing our Patisambhida Ñāna, Patisambhida Magga classes. Today we are moving into a new lesson, new wisdom, which is called the BhanghaanuPassane Ñāna, which is also a very interesting and pivotal, with very imperative wisdom in the path of vipassana, in the practice of vipassana. So far we discussed how wisdom grows from the knowledge of learning, and then how is implemented in the practice by disciplining yourself, adopting a virtue, and then how wisdom is involved in developing concentration. Then we moved into the vipassana jnanas. First we discussed how conditions are discerned by the wisdom. That was called the Pachchuppanna Ñāna, which comes after Namarupa Pariccheda actually. Then the yogi moves into the Samma Sambuddha Ñāna, which contemplates the impermanence, the three characteristics, universal characteristics of the conditioned realities. Then the yogi moves to see the rising and falling of the realities, and which is the Udayabbe Ñāna, and which we which we explained that there are no such concern or real relationship between the actual present moment and the Udayabbe Ñāna, though the Pachchuppanna word has been used, and we clearly distinguish what is Pachchuppanna according to the Theravada tradition. So one is not necessary to be in that present moment to contemplate a conditioned Pachchuppanna reality, and it's something how we consider. Then after seeing the rising and falling, the yogi moves into the wisdom of BhanghaanuPassane Ñāna, which sees the vanishing, which focuses more on the vanishing of the reality, because the mind abandons the genesis and focuses on the vanishing. And then the yogi is supposed to recontemplate, do a sort of a metacognition. He does recontemplate the wisdom which show the vanishing of the reality. So this wisdom is also considered as the culmination of vipassana jnanas, culmination. There's further jnanas to be developed in order to reach the nobility, but now when someone is initiating vipassana, this is a very important stage that we accomplish. Now with the Udayabbe Ñāna, the yogi sees the rising and falling of the conditioned realities. The rising and falling. So what happens is the realities appear to him as separate units, not as a constant self or a one thing that exists for a longer period. Instead, these realities are separate from each other. They are separate units. They have their own existence. They have their own genesis and vanishing, and they are not the same thing. Therefore, when we are living for few years, it doesn't mean that we have had the same consciousness throughout this entire period. Instead, we had various different consciousnesses rising and falling one after another, and this vision becomes well established with the Udayabbe Ñāna. At the Udayabbe Ñāna, another thing happens, because at the initial stage of the Udayabbe Ñāna, certain unexperienced, very abnormal phenomena occurs in the yogi's mind. The mind becomes very sharp, and it becomes very strenuous, and it very effortful. So he is able to practice constantly without any breaks, and he gets a very high level of bliss and a lot of clarity in the mind, and some even gets a light with which they can see the outside world even in the dark as well. Then at that time some yogis misjudge their experiences and consider them to be the attainments and go astray from the path. But some yogis understand their fall and come back, and some are skillful enough not to get lost or not to misjudge themselves, but still some attachment does arise at that stage. So one has to contemplate and thoroughly tackle those experiences, spiritual experiences, and move forward by contemplating the three characteristics of what of the realities, whatever he encounters or whatever arises in him. Then by seeing, so then the yogi starts to, the three characteristics will become evident to the yogi when he sees the rising and falling of the reality. Seeing the rising and falling is the gateway to understand the three characteristics. So then what happens is, when he sees when he sees the rising and falling, these realities appear to him as separate units, Then while contemplating both the genesis and the vanishing, but our mind is always inclined towards the vanishing, because we are trying to see the impermanence of the reality. We are trying to see the suffering nature and the non-self nature. So we are more inclined towards the vanishing rather than the genesis. Therefore, naturally, the mind abandons the genesis and focuses more on the vanishing. Then automatically the mind shifts towards the bhanga, or the vanishing of the realities, and he keeps on doing that. And that is not sufficient to progress further. At this level, now seeing the vanishing of the realities is not what is meant by the BhanghaanuPassane. BhanghaanuPassane means the wisdom which contemplates the vanishing of a reality. But just seeing the vanishing of a reality, because with the Ñāna, the yogi was seeing the rising and vanishing of the realities. But here there is a special thing to be done after seeing the now when he keeps on focusing on the rising and falling of the realities, after some time the mind gets moved towards the vanishing only, and he just doesn't focus on the rising. So he sees the vanishing of the realities. The yogi sees that realities instantly vanish without any delay, and they don't last for a long period. Sometimes, like he may focus on certain realities as generations, and which last for a long period, but still his mind goes to the to the vanishing side, and he always contemplates. They vanish, they always get destroyed, and they always disappear, and so forth. So at that time, then what he is supposed to do is, he is supposed to contemplate the vanishing of the consciousness or the wisdom which show the realities, which show the vanishing of the realities. Even here he is not seeing the rising, but contemplates the vanishing of the reality. So even this wisdom arose and vanished. Then this with another wisdom he contemplates the vanishing of that wisdom. So this is how, now this is the wisdom which is called BhanghaanuPassane. Even this we can call BhanghaanuPassane, but technically speaking, BhanghaanuPassane means the wisdom which sees or understands the vanishing of the wisdom which saw or which contemplated the vanishing of a reality. So now this is sort of a metacognition. Metacognition means we are capable of knowing or recalling or understanding our own thoughts. We are able to evaluate our own way of thinking, which is a very important skill in humans. Most of the animals, we believe, don't have that metacognition ability. It's very difficult for them to evaluate whether they did something good or bad, and how to think about how the mind is working, so forth, and why did I make such a decision, and so forth. Now here, the yogi is seeing the vanishing of a certain reality, and with another wisdom, when it has already vanished, he contemplates that this wisdom also vanished after that contemplation. And this wisdom, which is involved in seeing the vanishing of the wisdom, which saw the vanishing of a reality, is called BhanghaanuPassane Pañana. BhanghaanuPassane Pañana. So this is the brief explanation about this wisdom. This is very vital actually, because now when the person is seeing in the entire world, the outside world, as rising and falling, and as impermanent, suffering, and non-self, the yogi may develop an idea that I am observing, or I am understanding the true natures of the world. But this wisdom, BhanghaanuPassane, covers or obstructs or removes that error, because now with BhanghaanuPassane, the person contemplates his own wisdom, which show the reality of the world and his life. Therefore, he understands that there was no such a person who understood the reality. Instead, a consciousness or a mentality arose and vanished. And that is also not a self. Because seeing the vanishing, constant vanishing, instant vanishing, negates the possibility of a self, because self is something that is lasting forever as a one entity. So when realities are vanishing away instantly or constantly or regularly, rapidly, there is no opportunity of an idea of a self, because self does that nature doesn't befit the self, because it doesn't fit the self, because self is not something that is constantly rising and falling. Instead, it is a one entity that lasts for a certain period. Now, this with this wisdom, when one develops this wisdom of BhanghaanuPassane, there is no whatsoever possibility of an error in the vipassana practice, because all the conditioned realities are rising and falling, and they can be categorized as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. But the yogi is not aware, because it's very difficult to, now the eye cannot see the eye itself, because with our own eyes we are unable to see our eyes. So what is done here is, with the consciousness, he is observing the whole world and seeing its true nature. And what about this consciousness? We are not observing it, because the consciousness is not capable of knowing the consciousness at the same time while it is observing the world. It cannot have a deeper understanding about itself. So it has to be done by another consciousness. And this vipassana wisdom, this vipassana level takes away that possibility of a misunderstanding about the knower, or about the one who sees, and enables the yogi to contemplate the wisdom itself back. Therefore, this BhanghaanuPassane, at this level, the yogi has contemplated all the realities in their true, according to their true nature. So this is considered, now when someone has achieved the BhanghaanuPassane and does this contemplation of seeing the vanishing of the reality, or the wisdom which observes the reality, is considered as the culmination of vipassana. So after that, what he is supposed to do is to develop this emotional, or I beg your pardon to use that word, emotional means sort of feelings or sort of understandings about the world. Then he must develop the dispassion, is what is required. The nibbida is the next goal. After BhanghaanuPassane, the next goal would be nibbida. To reach the nibbida, one needs to have the fear about the sankharas, and one needs to get disappointed about the sankharas, seeing that there's no remedy for them and there's no security for these sankharas, and finally dispassion comes. So dispassion is the next target. After BhanghaanuPassane, it is the dispassion. Then after dispassion, the equanimity is what is required, because just having dispassion is not going to release you from the samsara. For that, we have to have a very delicate sort of a mindset, so to understand the reality as it is, without getting excited or without getting fully distressed by this real true distasteful nature, and also not really eager to jump into the nirvana, to get out of this samsara. He has to be very calm and composed, and to see the things as they are, and wait till the opportunity comes, and calmly get out of the samsara. So then the next goal would be sankhara upekha. Sankhara upekha is a state, and that sankhara upekha is achieved by a vigorous meditation practice called Patisambhida, and then the liberation happens. So BhanghaanuPassane marks a very imperative or important juncture in the vipassana practice. Now, starting from Ditti Visuddhi, the yogi, at the level of Ditti Visuddhi, yogi understands there is no self here, rather there are non-self realities that are acting as a unit. or with correlation with each other, and these mind and matter, these mind and matter were not created by a god, or it didn't happen spontaneously, rather they happened due to various causes, and then he contemplated all those causes are impermanent, suffering and non-self, which is not very relevant in this path, but which has been highly emphasized by the teachers, and also in the Visuddhimagga, and also by Buddha in some sutras, as teachers say. Then he sees that all these mentality on mind and matter are separate entities. They are not the same thing which is lasting for a long period. And with the seeing of understanding of the rising and falling, the yogi sees and understands that these realities are separate and they have very rapid lifespan. Then with the BhanghaanuPassane, now seeing the rising and falling, the mind inclines toward the falling nature or falling aspect of the vanishing nature, vanishing characteristic of vanishing and the vanishing moment, and then he observes the observer as well. The wisdom which was focusing on this vanishing and seeing this reality throughout this whole process, and that cause wisdom has also should be subjected to vipassana understanding. Then he has seen the whole world, the nama rupa, and there's no self other than nama and rupa, and all these nama and rupa are conditioned by other nama and rupas, and these nama and rupas are separate units, and they don't last for a long period, and they suddenly vanish, immediately vanish as soon as they arise. And the wisdom which observes everything is nothing other than another nama dhamma. It's nothing other than another nama, and it also has the same destiny, and it also vanishes instantly after it arises. Now he has done the entire thing. So BhanghaanuPassane shows that the vipassana has been completed. Now what is necessary is to repeat this practice again and again. So one has to repeat this practice again and again till it reaches the level of dispassion, nibbida. Then he has to overcome this dispassion thoughts in the mind. Dispassion is very important, so he get detached from the entire world, and that's a very vital juncture in vipassana practice, which is also termed as a very strong vipassana wisdom, nibbidanupassana. Nibbidanupassana, which is a very vital point. Then after that, what he's supposed to do is there's no other way, because there's no way out other than contemplating these conditioned realities. So then he keeps on doing them, because with the intention of getting out of samsara, so he energizes his practice and keeps on practicing, and finally he comes into a equanimous state which is called sankharupekha. And this is the next achievement one is supposed to get. So these are very vital. Without getting the sankharupekha Ñāna, one is not capable to get the breakthrough from the samsara by eradicating the defilements. Now, so before nibbidanupassana, the wisdom, the important wisdom that matters is BhanghaanuPassana, because he sees the nama rupa, which was with the Ditti Visuddhi. He saw it's just nama and rupa, NR. There's no self, and these now with the Kankha Vitarana, the second stage of vipassana. Come on. Kankha Vitarana Visuddhi. He knows that these nama and rupa are nothing other than products of other nama rupa. So it's just nama and rupa constantly existing in lineages, supporting each other and so forth. Then at the Magga Ñāna Dasana level, he understands the correct path, but instead rather than focusing on that understanding about the correct path, I would focus on the what he sees through the wisdoms. Then Udayabhaya Ñāna, he sees that these nama rupa are separate entities and they don't last for a long time. Namas and rupas they are separate, and these nama rupas have their own rising and falling, right? So then, but still it was about the life, about the world, and with the BhanghaanuPassane, what happens is, BhanghaanuPassane, he, instead of these nama and rupas, he mostly focuses, naturally the mind focuses on the vanishing, right? He focus on the vanishing, and then also what happens is he sees the wisdom, which is also a nama dhamma, wisdom, and it sees its vanishing as well. So it sees the this wisdom sees the nama and rupa vanishing, and then with another wisdom, with another nama dhamma, he sees the vanishing of that wisdom as well. Now there's nothing to examine any further. Everything has been examined. The life, the world is made out of nama rupa, and the observer, one who understands, is also a constitution of nama. Now the basic stuff, basic groundwork has been done. Here at a certain level, he understands what is to be done. Magga Ñāna Darsana Visuddhi comes at this level. And then what is supposed to be? He says he has to repeat this entire process again. He has to see the vanishing or the realities and see the vanishing of the mind, and starts contemplating in various ways. Then this would lead to the next wisdom, which is called Nibbida. Nibbida, dispassion about all these nama rupas. So in the path towards the dispassion, first he sees the things as fearful, bhayatupatthana, and then sees there is no refuge for these nama and rupa, adinavanupassana, and then he gets dispassion. Then what happens with this dispassion? He exerts his effort very much to get rid of. So he gets the urge to get out of the samsara, that is called munchitu kamyata, and then he put a lot of effort and starts vipassana meditation with a vigorous attitude, and he starts contemplating the sankharas as impermanent suffering and non-self constantly, and that is called Patisambhida meditation. It's a practice, and that meditation would lead to another attainment, which is called Sankharupeka. So he gets, rather than getting dispassion about the nama rupas, he become economous about them. This economous is not about, now when you are meditating, sometimes you feel like very calm and peaceful. Some may misunderstand this as Sankarpa. No, this is a completely different level, because you through the entire process of seeing the nama rupas and sankharas, and when you reach the higher level, the mind become very much economous about the sankhara. He's not very much interested in meditation. Not interested means he's not very eager in seeing the characters, because he has seen them clearly, and there's nothing to achieve, and also there's no one to get rid of the samsara, because it's just nama and rupa is existing. He's not very much excited in seeing the nibbana as well. Unlike in the munchitu kamyata level, munchitu kamyata is a great urge is coming to get out of samsara, because it was backed up by this dispassion, and that urge has to be subdued, because that urge is an outcome of the self view according to some teachers. So it has to be suppressed, and the mind has to be brought into a very economous, stable level, and still should not be giving up the practice, still should continue in contemplating the three characteristics of the realities, and then he hits the Sotapatti Magga, the noble Ariya Magga. With Ariya Magga, he sees the Nibbana. Right? So this is the process. So here BhanghaanuPassane is one of the culminations of vipassana practice. BhanghaanuPassane is one of the culminations. So that's why it's called BhanghaanuPassane Pañana vipassane Ñāna. It's given the term vipassana Ñāna, and that vipassana Ñāna in Patisambhida Magga is not given to the Udayabbe Ñāna. Even though in the Udayabbe Ñāna we are seeing the vanishing, but the actual completion of the vipassana happens at the BhanghaanuPassane Ñāna. So we shall read the handout. This is the wisdom which sees the vanishing of the wisdom which saw the vanishing of the conditioned reality. This is the wisdom. Now this is the BhanghaanuPassane Ñāna. BhanghaanuPassane. BhanghaanuPassane Pañana, or we can say BhanghaanuPassane Ñāna. This is the wisdom. It sees the vanishing of the wisdom which saw the vanishing of the realities. Right? So this is the wisdom which sees the vanishing of the wisdom which saw the vanishing of the conditioned realities. First, the yogi knows, understands, and sees the vanishing of a conditioned reality such as matter, feeling, perception, mental formation, or consciousness. Then that is what is meant by the phrase Arammanam Patisankha. Actually, we didn't write the Pali term. Arammanam Patisankha. Arammanam Patisankha. BhanghaanuPassane. Pañana. Vipassane. Ñāna. What is Arammana Patisankha? Arammana Patisankha means seeing in Nama and Rupa, seeing the vanishing of these Nama and Rupa, seeing the vanishing. It's seen by another wisdom, right? It's also Nama Dhamma. Now this is called Arammana Patisankha. Arammana is the object. So either it's a Nama or Rupa, it becomes the object of the wisdom, and the yogi sees the vanishing of those objects which are the conditioned realities. And first the yogi knows, understands, and sees the vanishing of a conditioned reality such as feeling and so forth, matter and so forth. And that is what is meant by the phrase Arammanam Patisankha. Patisankhaya, having known it thoroughly or having known it deeply or correctly. Arammanam, that is the conditioned realities. This is the wisdom. Then the yogi knows, understands, and sees the vanishing of that wisdom which saw the vanishing of the conditioned reality. With another wisdom, he sees the vanishing of that wisdom. See the vanishing of that wisdom, right? So the yogi knows, understands, sees the vanishing of that wisdom which saw the vanishing of the conditioned reality. That is what is meant by the phrase BhanghaanuPassane Pañana. It sees the Bhanga of the wisdom which saw the Bhanga of the realities. Right? BhanghaanuPassane Pañana. The wisdom which is involved in the act of seeing the vanishing of the wisdom which saw the vanishing of the conditioned realities is called BhanghaanuPassane Pañana. This BhanghaanuPassane Pañana is also called vipassane Ñāna. Vipassana Ñāna is the wisdom which sees the conditioned realities in various ways, such as seeing them as impermanent, suffering, non-self, as a sickness, as a spike, and so forth in various ways, and that's called vipassana Ñāna. In some ancient books, this wisdom was written as Arammana Patisankha instead of using the Arammanam, the accusative case. In some books, it was written as Arammana Patisankha, which is a compound noun. Arammana Patisankha, which is a compound noun. All right, in that regard, as a compound noun. In such reading, Arammana Patisankha means the act of knowing, seeing the object. Arammanassa Patisankha. The first morphem is understood in the genitive case, not in the accusative case. In that regard, okay. It doesn't make much difference. As the vipassana meditation comes into its culmination with the attainment of the BhanghaanuPassana, therefore, it has been specifically mentioned as the vipassana Ñāna. This is how the commentary of the Patisambhida Magga explains. So it says, the Udayabbe Ñāna, which saw the rising and falling of the realities, is not termed as, because it sees with the wisdom. So all these understandings are seen with wisdom, starting from the Ditthi Visuddhi. But this is the time he sees the vanishing of that wisdom as well. And even at these stages, we can do the contemplation and sees that wisdom is also a non-self reality, which is also a conditioned reality, which also arises. We can do that, but this is where, because now the yogi is more focused on the vanishing, which is the ultimate characteristic of impermanent reality, and he's seen the vanishing of the wisdom which saw that impermanence as well. So there's nothing more to be seen. That's the point here. There's nothing new to be seen here. So everything has been revealed now. Now, every reality is instantly vanishing, and the mind which observes that reality is also instantly vanishing. So therefore, there's nothing to be seen again. Now what he has to do is to develop his wisdom and attitudes towards these realities. And dispassion is the next aim, and then the Sankarupekka, equanimity, and then the breakthrough. So therefore, this is considered as a Sikhapatta Vipassana. It's a culmination. And also, why it is another very important reason is, now in Vipassana meditation, we are trying to see the three characteristics, and the gateway to see the three characteristics is the rising and falling, and out of them, falling is prominent, is foremost, because that is the characteristic which signifies us and denotes something as an impermanent reality. So when we say something is impermanent, we focus us on the vanishing rather than the genesis. Therefore, in BhanghaanuPassane, we are seeing the vanishing directly without focusing on the genesis. As the Vipassana meditation comes to its culmination with the attainment of the BhanghaanuPassane, therefore it has been specifically mentioned as the Vipassana Ñāna. Sorry. The wisdom of knowing the correct and wrong path arises to a yogi who has attained the Udyabbe Ñāna. Yes, here one gets the understanding of correct and wrong path, right? With that, the Vipassana reaches its culmination. One can say that the Vipassana reaches its culmination by knowing the correct path and wrong path. But still, Udyabbe Ñāna is not termed as the Vipassana Ñāna. It is the BhanghaanuPassane Ñāna that is called the Vipassana Ñāna. It is the BhanghaanuPassana which is called the Vipassana Ñāna. Because in my opinion, because it vanished, it's seen the Ramarupas vanishing and is now fully focused on the vanishing aspect. There's nothing to gain in Nama and Rupa, and there's nothing to gain or nothing to achieve by this seeing, very understanding as well, because this wisdom. So when we understand the reality of something, we have that self-satisfaction that we have known something very special. But here, there's nothing to be achieved, because knowing this is not an achievement in one sense, because it's just the wisdom which sees the reality is also just a impermanent reality entity which has no essence at all. So therefore, with that wisdom, it's the BhanghaanuPassane which is termed as the culmination of Vipassana. Sikhapatta, this is how it is meant, Sikhapatta. Vipassana Sikha. We have also a Sikhapatta in the Sankarupekka level, which is a different approach. And with this wisdom, Theravada says that the Vipassana has reached its culmination. Conditioned realities are clearly seen as separate entities with the wisdom of Udyabbe Ñāna. So conditioned realities are seen as separate entities. Here even now, maybe some namas, what we are seeing is Nama, and there are two entities as Nama and Rupa. It's not necessary to see the Nama and Rupas rising and falling or as separate entities. It's not very much necessary. Even though it contemplates Nama and Nama having divided into Chakku, Sota, Gana, Vijñānas, there's some idea and understanding that they are different realities, but he's not very evident to him because he has not seen the rising and falling here. So therefore, conditioned realities are clearly seen as separate entities with the wisdom of Udyabbe Ñāna. Clearly seen. Even at the higher levels, he sees them as separate entities, but clarity comes with Udyabbe Ñāna. Then when contemplating the rising and falling of those conditioned realities, those realities appear as rapid, as very rapid to the mind. They are not lasting very long time. They are very rapid. At that time, when the wisdom becomes sharp, it abandons the genesis of the realities and gets established on the vanishing. When the yogi sees these conditioned realities thus arises, vanish. When the yogi sees these realities thus arise and vanishes, when he contemplates thus, BhanghaanuPassane Ñāna arises. For the very important characteristic of BhanghaanuPassane, it sees the wisdom which saw the vanishing of the realities. This is in ancient books, this is called as Ñātancha Ñānancha Ubho Vipassati. This is how ancient teachers have expressed this idea. Ñātang means what is known through the mind. That is the object, aramana. That is the conditioned reality that we are focusing at. Whether it's a matter or feeling or perception, whatever, whether the reality which we are focusing at. Ñātancha vipassati. The yogi sees that realities as impermanent or vanishing and then contemplate them as impermanent, suffering and non-self. And then Ñānang. Ñāna is the wisdom which saw these realities. Now this is the Nama or Rupa. And he saw them as vanishing with this wisdom, which is also a Nama, and then this is the Ñāna also, okay, with the wisdom, Ñāna, and the yogi sees the vanishing of this wisdom as well, with another Nama Dhamma. But still he can keep on doing that for a few sequences, for a few times, seeing that again and again, but just seeing one would suffice, because now there's no one who is observing or understanding this reality as well. So this is called Ñāna, Ñātancha, Ñānacha, Ubho, both vipassati are seen through insight wisdom and are subjected to contemplation. So that is the point here. Now this is a very interesting wisdom, BhanghaanuPassane Ñāna, which follows the Udyabhya Ñāna. Then we move on to, on next day, we move on to the further, another wisdom, which is the Nibbida-anupassana. Then comes the Nibbida-anupassana. The next stage is Nibbida. But it will be, it is encompassing Bhaitupatthana and Adinava Ñānas as well. But the culmination, the next culmination would be Nibbida, reaching this level. Then the next culmination would be Sankharupekka. Then we get the breakthrough of attaining Maggaphala. But before that, the Gotrabhu has been explained, because it's a very strange and intermediate wisdom which has to be dealt separately. We'll talk about that as well. And so that is how the lecture would be about Bhaitupatthana, BhanghaanuPassana would be. Now I conclude the lecture, and we'll meet on next week, and continue our lessons. May all of us attain the supreme bliss by this merit of discussing and teaching Dhamma. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittato, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittato, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittato, Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu.